On today's episode of Locked On Canadiens, are we firing the coach already?
You're Locked On Canadiens, your daily podcast on the Montreal Canadiens, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello and welcome to episode 1168 of Locked On Canadiens. Thank you for making us your first listen of the day and for subscribing on YouTube and wherever you subscribe to podcasts. Doing that supports the show and ensures you don't miss an episode. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Place your first $5 bet. You'll get started with $200 in bonus bets guaranteed. Visit FanDuel.com. I am Ian Boisvert, also known as @MaybeIt'sIan. I'm joined as always by the incomparable Laura Saba, also known as the Active Stick, and welcoming her to the Locked On Canadiens extended cinematic universe. You know her as the newest host of Game Over Montreal, the president of Ghoulie Nation, and the account who keeps calling Nick Suzuki Meow Meow. It's Kay Imam. Kay, how are you doing today?
I am so happy to be here. Thank you so much for having me so I can preach Ghoulie Nation and not say those words about Nick Suzuki on camera, only on voice recording.
I had to put it in there because it is you have a very specific calling card on the internet. Your electronic footprint is very distinct. So people will know who you are by those things.
By the brand, yes.
Yeah, the brand's wonderful. So we have Kay on today because we want to pick her brain about a bunch of different things. We want to figure out if the Canadiens' woes have more to do with strategy or execution, what we expect to see out of the Canadiens over the next 10 games. And we'll get into our feelings on some of the more exciting parts of the Canadian season, while also chatting about what we find so exciting and special about Game Over Montreal returning. So let's start things off with sort of talking about the coaching versus the execution of the players. There's a lot of buzz going around that maybe Marty St. Louis is not cut out for this. And some argue that this is more execution on the players' side that's caused their slow start to the season. Kay, what are you seeing and feeling with the way that the season has unfolded so far?
Seeing what I feel like we've seen for the last few seasons. And I don't necessarily mean that in the negative way, because I think the last few seasons this was right for the last few seasons. It was all vibes. It was all good. But I am seeing the continuous lack of a defensive system, which is actually important to a team. But I'm also seeing a lot of improvement in the offensive zone. So we're seeing a lot. I feel like players are really getting there. When they are getting there, they're getting the offensive zone well, but there's a real lack of finish. So those are the two things that are most concerning to me, I think, are the lack of defensive structure and the lack of finish, which I think the first is a coaching thing and the second is on the players. So I'm going to chicken out and say both.
Laura, where are you at here?
I think it's a little bit of both also, but I think in particular, Kay mentioned the word structure, right? Like that is absolutely dramatically missing from this team, emphatically missing from this team. So I really like that you use that word because, you know, Martin St. Louis says he likes reads, he likes strategies, he likes concepts, he likes all of that. He moves away from the word strategy. I think it's time to move back towards it. That's something that I would really like to see on this team. And I think, you know, we talked about this last season as well. Martin St. Louis is a rookie coach, right? Not only is he a rookie coach, he's a rookie coach that didn't come up through the ranks in lower leagues. So there are growing pains here, but I also think that at some point, there has to have a performance conversation. There has to be a performance conversation between the front office and this coach. And I get that the front office is very married to this idea because it was a wild and out there idea. When they hired him in the first place, they got a lot of questions about it. And sometimes it can make you defensive about it. And I'm not saying go out and fire Marty. I'm saying have that performance conversation. I'm saying 3 years in, this is an error that you keep making and you're going to have to stop doing it, right? So that's where I stand on the defense part. Execution-wise, I think that a lot of these players are really young and a lot of these players are really inexperienced. But at the same time, you got to get the puck out of the zone. And sometimes that is an execution thing.
Yeah, I felt this way last year as well, although it seems like this year it's been magnified. Their inability to move the puck out of the defensive zone is the source of a lot of their problems. The first line Their expected goal numbers are horrific. They're not good. And it's not because they're not good offensively. It's the opposite. It's because they cannot play outside of their own blue line. I was at the Islander game where there was a shift in the second period where they spent 6 minutes chasing the puck around. And yeah, Kapanen didn't have a stick. 6 minutes is crazy. I've never seen that before. And I hope I never see it again. So I think a lot of the issues here are solved by fixing their defensive zone play. A lot easier said than done, right? Like, it's not something they're going to fix overnight. It's something that I think these 3 days off will be helpful because they can actually practice. But at the same time, we're now down. Matheson isn't practicing, so I'm considering him as an injury. Goalie is not playing. Barron is not playing. So, like, the timing could not be worse as far as we finally have practice time, and oh yeah, none of your players can practice. So it's just like it's a comedy of errors for the Canadiens right now, which is kind of indicative of the way their season has unfolded. I guess the question about the defensive zone play is, why is Marty wearing that and not so much Stefan Robida? I feel like Stefan Robida has been spared the ire of Montreal fans. The media have been fine. They're not going after Marty, but it's the fans are the seat is hot for literally no reason. I don't understand why. Why do you guys think, Stefan Robida has not been part of that conversation for the most part?
If I may, I'm so sorry. I'm just like gonna barrel ahead. If I may, I think it's because of the way that Martin St. Louis has been presented as the face, right? So he's getting that from a lot of the fans. And with Stefan Robida, like, I do think that there is an element of him being a favorite son of Quebec as a hockey player, right? It is, he's a guy who has a lot of talent, who had success, who people wanted on this team, like, as a player, right? Anytime there's a guy like that, whether it's whoever it is that is a homegrown player that we want to play in Montreal, who has absolutely no interest in coming here and goes almost everywhere but here, like, we have this idea of them. We idealize them. It's like this infatuation that we have. And so I think part of it is the fact that he's just flown under the radar because Martin St. Louis is the guy in front of the cameras, but also just because, like, there's a reluctance. Again, like, the front office is reluctant to criticize Marty or whatever is going on there. We don't know. Like, the community is reluctant to kind of go back on that excitement that we had. And I think it's totally fine to go back on that excitement we have and ask some questions of this guy. Like, I think that's totally fair. And a couple of our really astute listeners talked about it and asked us about it in the comments. And so I'm really glad they brought it up, because there's a lot of, like, questions about Marty. We're not seeing enough questions about Stefan Robida.
Yeah.
Actually, because I feel like last year Alex Burrows got a lot of flack for the
Yes.
power play, when we've heard that it was a lot on Marty. Marty was kind of doing a lot of that. So it's funny. I don't really, like you said, I think it's a little bit of the golden son, I guess, maybe a little bit. Burrows, people were willing to criticize, but for some reason, it's not the same for Robida. So, yeah.
Yeah, I completely agree. The last question I have sort of on this topic: what do you think matters more to the Canadiens rebuild right now? Is it process or is it results? I'm sort of leaning in the process department still, because I'm sort of getting the impression that, this team has not all the talent it needs, but it has enough talent now where if the process is good, the results will kind of take care of themselves. Both are bad right now. Like, they're doing neither of them. So, like, quickly with you guys, like, what do you think? What's more important? Is it results or is it process?
For me, it's definitely process. I know that we expect better from the Habs than we have for the last 2 years, but at the end of the day, it doesn't really matter to me if they sneak into the playoffs or even push for the playoffs if they're going to get embarrassed in 4 games and sent home, right? Like, that's not realistic, and if anything, it's kind of holding us back. So I really just care about process. I need to see better.
Yeah. Laura, where are you at?
I think it's process, because at the end of the day, like, results are, for me, process is puck possession. It's all of that. And then results are whether the bounces went your way or not. So you can, like, if you're looking at bounces, if you're looking at luck, if you're looking at bad officiating, any good team on average is going to fall victim to that over the course of a season. But if the process is strong, they'll come back, right? And I know we're about to run out of time in this segment, but really quickly, I want to point to a lot of teams that kind of derailed or delayed their Stanley Cup windows because their process was good. They decided to shake it up because they went into a slump or a losing streak, or they didn't do as well as they wanted in the playoffs, and then they retooled and retweaked. They took a lot of skill off, but they also took a good coach, and they had like this, the formula for winning is to dominate in puck possession, high danger chances, all of that, all of the things, all the numbers we talk about every night. You have to do well on that because those are the ones that on average, overall, over the course of a season, over the course of a career, will result in wins. So for me, it's definitely process.
Yep. Clean sweep across the board. Process is more important. I don't care if they win another game. No, I'm just kidding. All right. Like Marty says all the time, the schedule does not stop for the Montreal Canadiens. We are going to take a look at their next 10 games moving on in the regular season, and we will get into all that in just a moment. Hey, NFL fans, you can start the season with a big return on FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Maybe you've got your eyes on Thursday night's matchup between the LA Rams and the Minnesota Vikings, with Minnesota entering the game as road favorites at -134. Or maybe you like Cooper Kupp to find the end zone in his return at +125. Either way, FanDuel is the place to play. So when you get a hunch in the middle of the game, you can check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more on the same page where you place your bets. You'll get started with $200 in bonus bets guaranteed when you place your first $5 bet. I'll say that one more time. You'll get started with $200 in bonus bets guaranteed when you place your first $5 bet. That's FanDuel.com. All right, we are back, and we are looking at the Canadiens' next 10 games. I don't know why we picked that number. It is just a nice round number. And I think there's actually a pretty good grouping of games in here that I think is going to tell us a lot about this hockey team that we might not already know. Let me roll through this really quick. St. Louis, at Philadelphia, Seattle, at Washington, at Pittsburgh, Calgary, at New Jersey, at Toronto, at Buffalo, at Minnesota. So the thing that stands out to me is Montreal has wasted the early season of very, very home-heavy schedule. They had a lot of home games, a lot of home cooking, and they really did not do much with it. And this show there's a 4-game road trip in here. They play, 7 out of 8 on the back end of that 10-game stretch are all on the road. There's some bad teams in that mix, including Seattle, who Montreal didn't lose to last year. I'm a little concerned about this stretch. I don't know about you guys, but I just don't really have a ton of confidence in them going on the road and beating a lot of these teams.
Sure.
Go for it.
Sorry. For me, it's, and I saw Ian tweet about this, is it feels like there's been a lot of squandered opportunities in the last little while. Yeah. Teams at the level that the Habs are can't afford to throw away games. And there's been a lot of games that I feel like they just could have easily won and didn't. I'm really nervous, like you said, about this coming stretch because it's going to be rough. I feel like the Bell Center is a wonderful, magical place to play, even if the Habs do mess it up on important nights. They love to ruin those.
Those ones especially.
Yeah, when there's like legends in the building, they're like, "Oh, what if I like fell on a banana peel?"
We had this. We had the same thought in yesterday's episode. It's like, oh, the greatest players in franchise history are here. Might as well just not play for the evening. That was great. Yeah. It's great. It's wonderful stuff.
So the Bell Center crowd is wonderful. I think it's a great crowd for an away team. It's got to be hard, but you don't have that anymore. You have just a really hard stretch of away games. So.
And the long change.
Yes.
Yep.
Yes.
So I'll tell you why I picked 10 games. Because that is about a week before American Thanksgiving, which is when everyone declares, like it ends, maybe like a week and a half before American Thanksgiving. And that's when everyone declares what a team is, right? So that's why I was like, let's look at 10 games and then see, like, if that 10 games, are they trending upwards at the end? or downwards. And then they've got another, like, I think 5 games after that, where it's really going to be like, what do they put together after they trend upwards or downwards, right? They could tread water, which I really don't want. They could get worse, but I don't know how much, like, that was a shellacking against the New York Rangers. There's so many things went wrong. I don't know how much worse you can get than that. Do not tempt me, Montreal Canadiens.
Dude, you blew it. They're gonna give up 18 against St. Louis. Way to go. Thanks, Laura.
So that's really wise. I wanted to see if there was a pattern. And so we've had the like, the okay start, or the positive start, I would say. It was fun too. That it went downhill, and then what do they do with that, right? And then we see then if it's a wave, if it's a lack of consistency, or if it was something where they figured something out, they made improvements, they made adjustments, they updated their process, and things got better. So like really that 10 games is the beginning of that. And also we can't fit 15 games into one segment. So there was a lot of, there was a lot of method to my madness with that question. But what I did want to say is that it's not just that it's on the road. It's that there's some of these teams are tough. And then some of these teams are teams that are not tough, but for some reason the Canadiens have trouble with them, right? So like you're thinking of Buffalo, right?
Yeah,
Buffalo,
that was the one that jumped off the page as soon as you said that.
At least there's no Jeff Skinner there anymore to dunk on us.
Oh, that's so true. Maybe our luck is turning. Everything's coming up Millhouse now.
We got to be careful with that one. They'll find someone else. Buffalo will always find someone else to kill us. But so it's teams where like the Canadiens could easily beat. And then I think there's a couple of paper tigers in there that I'm very, very excited about, because then you kind of understand, right? So will the Canadiens step up or wilt against Toronto? Will the Canadiens be able to like right the ship against Pittsburgh, right? We talked a lot about how Pittsburgh has that chemistry the Canadiens are lacking. So is it better a few games later? There's a lot of patterns and ideas that I think could be brought forward. When I say ideas, I meant narratives that could be brought forward like after this 10-game stretch. And I really hope that at the end of it, we are singing a different tune. And I'm now talking in so many cliches, but all of this is to say is that what I do want to see over the course of the next 10 games is just figure something out on the defense, whatever it is. Trade a guy, not my favorites. Fire the D coach, add a coach. I don't care if they have 10 D coaches. They can actually afford that. So do that. Just have your bench crowded with people, right? Stick a whole bunch of them in the press box. So I don't care what they do, but I just want to see the defensive play improve. So if I don't see a bunch of wins, but I see them able to carry the puck out of the zone, to transition, to support that offense that could click, as Kay pointed out at the very beginning of this episode. If I see that, then I'm going to be happy. But if it's just like, if it's a whole bunch of wins, we'll have fun and they're empty wins, like I'll be a lot less happy just because I need to see this team play better.
Yeah. I need to see this team beat a team that's not from Ontario. The only wins they have are against teams from Ontario. They need to win against any of the lower 48 states or any of the other provinces in Canada.
Is it too late to move Utah to Kitchener?
Yeah. I've been harping on this for a while because it was plain to see that it was going to happen. St. Louis on Saturday. If Montreal does not win, they will have gone over 2 weeks without a win. That cannot happen if you want to be, as Marty says, in the mix. Kay, anything else you're looking for in these 10 games?
Full 60 minutes. I need that so bad. They need that so bad. I feel like in last season it was they either not start on time or they start on time and then completely let the game get away from them in the second period. So far this year, small sample size, but we've seen them not start on time and let go of the game in the third period. So at least they're getting better in the second. We take the improvements where we can get them. But I just really look, the Habs are not they don't have enough sheer talent to just make up for a lack of effort. I'm so sorry to say that, but they don't have like a McDavid to save them last minute. They don't have a McKinnon to save them last minute. They need a full effort. No team in the NHL can just get away with playing one period, and the Habs are no different.
Yeah, no, completely agreed. And it's so funny how in the same segment we've gone from like sickeningly positive about things that are just so mundane to also heart-crushingly realistic about where this team is at. That's sort of what it feels like to be a fan of this team right now, is we're so positive about certain aspects of it. Lane Hudson's been super fun. Cole Caulfield scoring again and just looks really, really great. Nick Suzuki looked great against the Rangers, even if the rest of the team didn't. But like, we're talking about that after a night where they lost 7-2. You know what I mean? Like it's just, we can't even take solace in the fact that the Leafs lost 6-2 to Columbus. Like we can't even, that's not even on our radar right now because we just have enough stuff on our own plate. So big stretch of games coming up for the Montreal Canadiens. We'll keep you covered here on Locked On Canadiens every day of the week. But we are headed into our final segment where we want to give Kay the opportunity to explain herself about Goulet Nation, and we'll get into all that in just a moment. I love being in the middle of the action, whether that's taking a concert or enjoying a night at the ballpark. It's just more fun being there. The place where you can go to get to the events you want to see is Game Time. We're big fans of Game Time here, thanks to their all-in pricing. This is a setting in the app that you can toggle on so Game Time tells you exactly how much you'll be paying to get in. No hidden fees. Plus, with their seat views, you know what kind of action you'll be able to see. And with their lowest price guarantee, you know you're getting the best deal for your tickets. It's for all these reasons that I went to Game Time to secure tickets to the Habs game against the Islanders last week. And even though they lost, I got great seats at an even better price. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off. Download Game Time today. What time is it? It's game time. This episode is also brought to you by Prize Picks. Prize Picks is America's #1 daily fantasy sports app with over 5 million active members. Prize Picks is the easiest, most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports. All you do is pick more or less on 2 to 6 player stat projections and watch the winnings roll in. Prize Picks puts their members first, so all withdrawals are fast, safe, and secure. When my picks hit, I can get my money in as quick as 15 minutes. Prize Picks invented the flex play, which means you can still cash out even if your lineup isn't perfect. You can double your money even if one of your picks doesn't hit. It's so fun and simple to use, you'll really enjoy playing. Download the Prize Picks app today and use code LOCKEDONNHL and get $50 instantly when you play $5. That's code LOCKEDONNHL on Prize Picks to get $50 instantly when you play $5. You don't even need to win to receive the $50 bonus. It is guaranteed. Prize Picks, run your game. All right, we are headed into our final segment here on Locked On Canadiens. We thank Kay so much for taking the time to stop by. And this section is going to be all about Kay because, like, as I said earlier, Kay has a very distinct footprint in the Canadiens ecosphere. And I think the most important one is that everyone refers to Kay as the president of Goulet Nation, sometimes Madam President if we're feeling extra that day. How did that start? Like, how do you just decide one day that you are the president of a fan club?
Okay, first of all, it was not self-appointed. This is a democracy. It was in the Game Over chat, actually. The start of Game Over. I've always really liked Caden Goulet since day one. Sometimes you just like a player. I couldn't even tell you at first why I enjoyed him so much. I can tell you now, but at first it was just I like this guy. And I played this game during Game Over shows where in the chat, as many times as possible, I would bring up Caden Goulet. I would figure out how many times I could bring it up before someone said something. It became a brand. On Twitter, there's so many times I've tweeted about Caden Goulet. It's a little humiliating. It's a little embarrassing, but it's made me who I am. You know, I've gained this really important title of Madame President, and listen, we've got open borders. Anybody's welcome. So come and join us.
That's even Leafs fans.
Yeah, if they're gonna be nice. If they're gonna be nice to me personally, cool. Then yes. But if you're not nice to me personally, I'm kicking you out.
This is ruling with an iron fist that I think the Goulet Nation really, really needs. Look, you're preaching to the choir about embarrassing tweets and loving players. I tweeted Line ? For like 3 years, and then it actually happened. So chase your bliss, man. I also have a t-shirt that says Petrie for Norris on it. So, you know, we really love just going way too extra in the department of loving a player. I want to talk to you about Game Over because it's, you know, we were obviously huge supporters of it because it was huge supporters of us, not only Locked On Canadiens, but us personally. You know, I wasn't even on Locked On Canadiens yet, and they were having me on that show. How does it feel to be part of that team? Like what is working on Game Over like?
So amazing. This is my first time doing something like Game Over, and I'm so, so grateful for the opportunity. Because I feel like Andrew Berkshire, who's kind of the founder of that network, uh, is so excited about starting and creating this community. I mentioned Game Over it before because it's where I found a lot of community. Like I said, I was so loud in the chat, and instead of ignoring my comments, they engaged because they always do. The hosts, Mark and Andrew, have been wonderful. So it's now wonderful to be a part of that hosting team, and I love the thought of being able to engage the community in that way, and also not be annoying in the chat and be annoying on the stream instead, which is fun.
Yeah,
Um,
I created a meme for this show a while ago when we get some negative comments from time to time, and it's just a meme of Yuri Slafkovsky after he scored his first goal, and he's just screaming in the face of some unnamed Arizona Coyote, and on Slafkovsky it just says me on the podcast, and the other guy just says you in the comments. So we get that, like that totally tracks.
So I have a question. Okay. So one thing I do want to talk about with Game Over is that it's a really fun time right after the games. Like we don't really have all that much like that in Montreal. We have mainstream radio shows, but we don't have something that's fun, that's very fan driven, that's engaging, just like that. So it's been something where, and it used to be a ritual for me on Saturday nights to the game was over. Let me go into the Game Over chat and see what's going on there.
You're being humble. You are Mrs. Saturday Night. They kept calling you that. You weren't going into the chat. You were on the show most Saturdays, Laura.
me on the podcast.
Exactly. You're doing it now.
But and I will say, like, the reason that Ian is on this show is it is true. Like, we were friends with him in the past, and he did have a sizable body of written work, right? And then we saw him on the show and we're like, this guy can be on YouTube. And that's when, we started inviting him on. And like, that's how I learned that there's really nobody else that I would rather work with after Scott left, right? So it does launch it launches fans into the media. And I think that's what I really love about that. And what I also really love is that it gives the opportunity to people like you who have a lot to say. You are hilarious, and I can't wait to just see more of you. And you didn't have to basically be born like rich and privileged and white and able to do a media internship and work for free for 3 years, et cetera, et cetera. So I really love that it gives a voice. There's lots of you on there with some great talent that are really fun, really funny. So that's why I'm really passionate about Game Over. Like, I think it is, yes, there's the founders, there's Mark and Andrew, who've been staples of the Canadiens fan community since the Eyes on the Prize days, but the people they give a voice to are who I really care about, because that gives you the opportunity to be heard. And I think people need to hear what you have to say, not just as president of Goulet Nation, but just as a really fun and funny Habs fan.
Thank you. I have to say, sorry. I have to say that being an immigrant who was not born into a hockey family, I kind of fell in love with hockey all by myself. I was a Habs fan basically out of spite because I grew up near Toronto and the Leafs fans at my school were the boys were mean. And I was like, okay, well, I'll be a Habs fan. So, living in this little bubble where I didn't really have anybody because the Leafs were the closest team. I feel like I got so lucky to find Game Over. I think just as a concept for a post-game show to kind of get together, cry, laugh, it's a great place. But also I feel so, so lucky to have the opportunity to do this thing that I never, ever thought I would get to do or have the confidence to do.
That's awesome. No, you have not seen the last of Kay on Game Over or on this show. So welcome to the cinematic universe. Hey, we do a thing at the end of the episodes where we like to get into some trivia. We have a question from last episode that we'll answer, and we have a question for next episode that we'll see if folks will know the answer to. I'll read last episode's question. I'll give you an opportunity to see if you know it. Who's the Habs leader all time in shootout goals? Laura, I don't know if you had an answer to this when I read it last time. Are you?
No, I wanted to ask if it was Andrei Markov.
It is not Andrei Markov.
I don't know
Kay,
why I felt like it was.
Kay, do you have a guess here?
No, and it took everything in me not to Google it. So
the answer is David Desharnais, 17 shootout goals. Yeah,
No.
pretty surprising. Koivu and Suzuki are tied for second with 11, and Kovalev is in third with 10. So Suzuki could end up at the top of this list, but yeah, David Desharnais. I mean, remember he used to just walk in and hammer slap shots. That was just dude stuff. That ruled. So David Desharnais mentioned. We did it. All right. The question for tomorrow's episode, if you know the answer, put it in the comments below. We'll pin whoever gets it first. Follow this player. Montreal, Colorado, New York Rangers, Dallas, St. Louis, Colorado, Vancouver. I'll go through that list one more time. Montreal, Colorado, New York Rangers, Dallas, St. Louis, Colorado, Vancouver. So good luck. Put it down in the comments if you get it. But we are all out of time here. Kay, where can the people find you and your work?
You could find me on Twitter, aka X, at KAY_IMW. And you can learn more about Game Over by going to the GameOverNetwork.com. And you can see me on Game Over after the game on Saturday. I will be yelling no matter what happens.
We love to hear it. That's going to do it for us today. So thanks so much for tuning in and making us your first listen of the day. For your second listen, check out Locked On Fantasy Hockey. Become a fantasy hockey expert and get the edge over your league mates with daily tips from Steal and Flip. Locked On Fantasy Hockey is on YouTube and wherever you listen to podcasts. As a reminder, we are free and available everywhere you get your podcasts, including YouTube. So be sure to subscribe to Locked On Canadiens so you don't miss an episode, and share the episode if you like it. You can follow the show on Twitter at LO_Canadiens or email us at lockedoncanadiens@gmail.com. You can find Laura at The Active Stick. You can find me at Maybe It's Ian. Thanks for tuning in. We will see you next time.